Hello, welcome back to the channel. Finally, I'm back from holidays. It wasn't that long, just 2 weeks ago the last video was released, but I'm finally back and I'm glad to be back, have a lot of energy. I didn't read that much as you'll see in this video, but I am keen to start reading more and give you more reviews. But let's go with today's video, which is a wrap up for September and predictive reading for October. Before we jump into all of that, don't forget to subscribe, like the content, and comment away what books did you read this month? Did you finish any amazing book that you want to recommend? I'm all ears for that. So like I said, September wasn't that great of a month in terms of reading because on holidays have to visit family and spend time with them, and so my reading kind of takes a toll and I don't read as much. But I was still able to finish 3 books and 1 manga volume. Luckily, all the books that I finished were kind of big, so in the end I was able to read around 2,300 pages. And that would have been great, except the scores that I gave these books varied quite a lot. The minimum I gave was 1.6, and you can probably guess what book that was if you have been following this channel for a while. And the max I gave was 4.8, which is amazing, and I really love that book. But so, if you've never seen these videos, the way I'll follow is I'm gonna tell you what books I'm currently reading, then what books I finished, and what books I want to read in October. Starting with the books I'm currently reading. At the moment, I am reading Towers of Midnight, which is the 13th and second last book of The Wheel of Time. That means I finished the 12th book, as you can probably imagine. And this was written by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson, the second book that Brandon Sanderson helped write to finish this series. And I do have some things to talk about on Brandon Sanderson's writing into Wheel of Time, but I'll leave that for the 12th book's review, so The Gathering Storm. For this one, I'm loving it. It's really good. You can see things starting to reach their climax. The epicness, it's getting more and more epic as it goes. And that also means that probably before the year ends, I'm done with this series, and it's very bittersweet. I kind of want to finish, but at the same time, I know that once I'm done. There's no more. So that's always a bit sad. My other current read is The Velvet Rage by Alan Downs. And yes, this means I finished The Dragon of Jin Sayang by Zhou, which I will speak further ahead. As for The Velvet Rage, this is not a sci-fi or fantasy book. This is a non-fiction book, actually. But nonetheless, it's been a very interesting read. It was recommended by several friends. I decided to pick it up, and although I think there are some parts that are a bit outdated, it can still be applied to many people, so I think it's always a useful read. I'm already a third of the way through, so I'm expecting to finish it quite soon, hopefully in October, and then I'll move on to another book. My third ongoing read is The Blood of the Mantis, or Blood of the Mantis by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the third book of the Shadows of the Act series, which is his fantasy series. I started it today, so I'm still very at the start, still a lot of setup and recap of what happened in the previous books, so I don't have much to say, but I do hope it gets better, and I'm expecting a good read out of this, so that's all I have to say. And my final current read is a manga, which is One Piece Volume 45. This is kind of already the end of Water 7 arc, and it's the in-between. Not really, because there are still big points in terms of Water 7 arc, but you can see that the arc is finishing and it's starting to roll into the next one. And that is all I am currently reading. Now going back to the books I finished. Let's start, of course, with The Wheel of Time, and like I said, I finished The Gathering Storm, which is the 12th book of this series, third last. First one also written by Brandon Sanderson. This was an amazing book. It's fully out of the slog, and it has so much excellence in character development. It truly should be a masterclass in character development. I think it's probably one of the best books in the second half of the series, and I think the general public agrees, because on Goodreads, this book has a score of 4.43 out of 5. And the score I gave was a 4.8 out of 5. And I think it totally deserves it. I will have a more detailed review on the channel soon. I still need to publish previous reviews that I have filmed, but yeah, just know that this one was a really good one, and I cannot wait to talk more about it. The next book I finished was The Dragon of Jin Sayang by K.S. Veloso. This is the third book of a trilogy, so the last one from a trilogy called The Chronicles of the Bitch Queen, or Chronicles of the Wolf Queen, depending on what you see around. And what can I say? The hopes I had for this book to end the trilogy in an okay manner ended up being torn apart. The ending had some potential, but it ended up frustrating me to no end. I'll still release a review about it, but expect more of a rant rather than a review. I mean, I'll still try and give an objective review and try to say what worked out for me or what didn't, but still, there's gonna be some angry moments for sure. Anyways, on Goodreads, it seems like a lot of people like this book because this book has a score of 4.22 out of 5. But my score, you guessed it, was the 1.6 out of 5. So I think there are very few categories that can get a positive score in this book, but we'll get into that in another video. After that, I finished The Rise of Endymion, and it was almost finishing both books at the same time because I was co-reading them, so this was contrasting a lot with The Dragon of Ginseng. For those that don't know, The Rise of Endymion is the fourth and last book of the Hyperion Cantos, which is a tetralogy. It was written by Dan Simmons. The books are Hyperion, The Fall of Hyperion, and Endymion, and then The Rise of Endymion. I think the ending of the series and of this book were satisfying. They were a complete contrast to The Dragon of Ginseng. I think it wasn't as good as some of the books in the series. However, it's still an amazing book. It has so many qualities, and I think it's a definite recommendation for any science fiction fan. Although I do think that this book deserves a higher rating on Goodreads, because on Goodreads it only has a score of 4.17 out of 5. And my score was 4.6 out of 5. So there's that discrepancy, and I do think that it should be higher on Goodreads. But nonetheless, I mean, 4.17 is still a good score. I just wish it was a bit higher. Those were all the books. Then I read one manga volume, and it wasn't One Piece. I bet you were expecting it to be, but now it was this manga that was offered to me by a friend called I Hear the Sunspot. The volume 1. It's not fantasy, it's not science fiction, it's a romance. It has several volumes. I only read the first one. I think it's a very cute story, very romantic. I definitely want to go and read the other volumes, and I will get them eventually. But just this first volume allowed me to see what type of story it was, what are the messages it's trying to achieve and to pass through to the readers, and I think they were very good. I think it has a lot of potential, so I will read the next volumes, just don't know when. I won't be doing a review for this volume because, again, it's a bit weird to do reviews for manga volumes one by one. At least you should do for a whole arc, and therefore this won't show up anymore on the channel. But just so you know, on Goodreads, this volume has a score of 4.24 out of 5, and my score was a 4.8 out of 5. So I really enjoyed this manga volume, and it might be a good recommendation if you like romances in manga format, so I might give it a go. And those were all the books/mangas that I read in September. What am I predicting to read in October? The year is almost over, and I really need to ramp up my reading because I want to finish my challenges. Well, if I finish The Towers of Midnight by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan with The Wheel of Time, I will be reading the last one, A Memory of Light, and super excited for this, but at the same time, again, it's that bittersweet feeling. It's a chunker of a book. It has one of the biggest chapters I've ever read in my entire life, and I'm very excited for it. I won't spoil anything of what it is, but you can probably guess it. But yeah, this will definitely be one of the reads I'll be doing in October. In the ebook format, once I finish The Velvet Rage, which I hope I can finish soon, I'll be starting that web novel that I mentioned in the previous wrap-up video, which is Lord of the Mysteries, and I will start with the first volume, which is quite big and was recommended by a friend of mine, so I'm gonna give it a try, see what comes out of it. Once I finish A Blood of the Mantis by Adrian Tchaikovsky, I'm gonna fulfill the promise that I made in the previous video, which is to read Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I'll just mention this is an unfinished series. The author passed away before finishing the third book, but everyone still says that the first and second books are amazing and are a definite to read. So I'm gonna give it a go and see what it's all about. After that, Sorcery by Terry Pratchett will be the next book to be read. I still haven't bought it, but I will buy it soon, and therefore it will be another Discworld. I haven't touched the Discworld in ages, so it's definitely due for another read, and let's see what that book is about. I'm very curious, and I'm definitely missing that humor from Terry Pratchett. And because I need to challenge myself and keep forcing myself to read more, and after all, these are not even that many books, I'm gonna try and read The Autumn Republic by Brian McClellan. This is the last book of the Bottom Age trilogy, which I've read the first two and published reviews here on the channel. You can check them out. And this, I'm expecting big things. It's gonna be epic, it's gonna be flintlock, so there's a bit of everything. And I haven't touched this world in a while as well. Been traveling across so many different worlds that some of them start falling behind, so time to pick this one up. And of course, amongst all of these, I'm gonna read a lot of manga volumes, I hope, and probably almost all of them will be One Piece, and I'm keen to start going into Thriller Bark and other arcs possibly, but I'm not gonna jinx it because last time I said I was gonna go across a whole arc, it didn't happen. So let's just hope I can read a lot. That's the main message. And that is my wrap up / predictive month. So what do you think? Is any of these books interesting to you? Have you read any of these books and you have some warnings or some go ahead, read that book, it's excellent messages for me? If you do, comment down below. I want to know all about it. And if you're new, don't forget, subscribe, like the content, and I'll be seeing you soon on Sundays and Thursdays, okay? See you soon.